Have you ever spent hours digging through an ISO standard and also various websites and discussion forums looking for an answer for a particular ISO standard? So in today's video, I'll show you how you can actually get these answers from AI, and also what kind of questions you can actually ask AI to give you reliable answers. I'll also share the screen and show you which kind of tools you can use for answering these questions. And I'll show you the three main ways you can actually use these tools for getting reliable answers. And finally, I'll show you what are the limitations of AI and where you actually have to keep a human in the loop. So what human beings still need to do in this whole process. So after you watch this video, you'll have a clear idea on which AI tools exist for this purpose, and also what is the best method to use them. Okay, let's see first what kind of questions you can actually ask. Of course, you can ask questions specifically about the requirements of the standard. So, for example, you could say, what kind of requirements does ISO 27001 have regarding this statement of applicability, which is one of the main documents in this standard. But then you can ask some further questions. For example, what the auditor will ask with regards to statement of applicability. So what kind of evidence will be needed with regards to that document? Or you might ask what are the, let's say, the best steps to implement or to write this document. You might also ask about what is the mandatory content of this document, and so on and so forth. And of course, the goal here is that you do not have to spend really hours on finding answers to these kind of questions, but also that you can actually rely on these answers that you know that they're really 100% true. So let's see what are the three ways you can actually use AI for answering these questions. Okay, the first option is basically to use this kind of a generic AI chatbot like ChatGPT. Of course, you could use Claude or Gemini or any other, and then basically ask questions about standards. The second option is also to use these generic chatbots, but that you actually upload the text of the standard from which you want to get the answers. And the third option is to use a specialized AI-powered tool that is focused specifically on compliance. So for example, Advisera's Experta AI Copilot. Now I'll show you how to use all these three options in more detail. I'll show you several examples on how you can actually ask questions in all of these three options. But let's go first through some challenges of using these kind of AI tools for compliance. Okay, what are some major challenges with using AI tools for answering questions? So first of all, they might hallucinate, which basically means that they provide you with a wrong answer, and they do it very convincingly so that you are actually not sure whether this is the right or a wrong answer. The second challenge is privacy. So if you are not very careful and you enter certain, let's say, sensitive details in your question, then if this AI tool is not set properly, this actually sensitive details could be used to train the AI model. So let me now show you the details on how you can use these tools and also how to overcome these challenges. Okay, let's start with the first option, asking ChatGPT various questions without uploading any documents. So let's start first with some, let's say, general questions, easier questions. What are the main clauses in ISO 27001? Let's see what it answers. And yeah, I think the answer is right. Yeah, so clauses 4 to 10 are the main clauses, and it did actually answer this correctly. There is this Annex A. So the answer here is correct. Okay, let's ask another question, also more general. So how many controls are there in the ISO 27001? It should know. Actually, it already answered up, but just to check. Okay, so 93 controls. In the older version, 114 controls. Okay, so basically these answers are correct. Now let's see how it answers a little bit tougher questions. So what are the steps in risk management according to ISO 27001? And let's see what it answers. So clauses 6.1 and clause 8, this is right. First, define the risk assessment methodology, correct. Identify risks, analyze risks, evaluate risks, treat risks. Okay, this is right. Okay, and this step 5, treating the risks, it says that there are two outputs, risk treatment plan and statement of applicability. It's not that simple. So basically these are usually two separate steps. And first of all, the first output should be, or the next step after treating the risks should be statement of applicability. And then after that, a risk treatment plan. And basically this statement of applicability is not based only on treating the risks, it's also based on requirements of third parties. So I would say that generally this answer is fine, but these steps, which are, by the way, very important, are not, I would say, entirely correct, especially because the certification auditor will spend a large amount of time actually using this statement of applicability. So you have to be very careful how this is written. Okay, let's see some other questions related to statement of applicability. So how to implement a statement of applicability. Let's see if it understands correctly how this is done. Okay, so you start with the risk assessment. This is correct. Take the full list of controls. This is correct. For each control, you have to document 4 mandatory elements. Okay, I didn't ask about documenting, but this is still okay. Actually, it's not okay. So this is not mandatory. You don't have to reference to implementation. So this is something that is optional. Link controls to risks. This is fine. And produce risk treatment plan in parallel. Actually, this is not in parallel. So risk treatment plan has to be written after the statement of applicability, because until you have statement of applicability, you can't really create a risk treatment plan. So this is created afterwards. So as you can see, ChatGPT actually answers to more general questions pretty good. But when you actually dig deeper, it is not so reliable anymore. Okay, now let's test this second option. I actually uploaded here this full text of the ISO 27001 standard, and I'll start asking questions so that ChatGPT can actually read this standard and give me the answers. Now, 2 very important points here. First one is that you should always go here in settings and under data controls, you actually have to set this option of improving the model for everyone to off. This means that you are not allowing ChatGPT or OpenAI to use your data for training their models. Why is this so? Because there are at least 2 reasons. First one is if you're uploading any of your confidential documents to ChatGPT, so that you are not allowing this company to actually use your confidential data. And second thing is when you're uploading these kind of materials that have intellectual property rights on them, like ISO standards, then you're also not allowing ChatGPT to, let's say, copy this information, because then you would actually be breaking the intellectual property rights from ISO. So when using these ISO standards, you have to be very careful not to distribute them, not to allow the access to anyone else. Okay, anyway, now I'll be using this prompt saying, using the uploaded ISO 27001 standard, tell me what are the main clauses in ISO 27001. It should answer this correctly. Let's see. And yes, so basically it provides the right answer, and as you can see, this as the source is basically the standard itself. Yeah, so all these answers are correct. It also answered that there are 93 controls in the standard. Again, all of these things are correct. And under sources, you can see actually that this is the standard itself. So basically it used this standard. Now let's ask some more difficult questions. So using the uploaded 27001 standard, tell me what are the steps in the risk management according to ISO 27001. Let's see if it is going to be better than without the standard. So first define the risk management framework, in other words, the methodology. This is correct. Identifying risks, analyzing risk, evaluating risks. This is correct. Selecting risk treatment options. This is correct. Determining controls. Creating statement of applicability. Now this is right here. You see that the right sequence here is after controls you create a statement of applicability. After that you create a risk treatment plan. This is correct. And then you obtain risk approvals, implement the risk treatment. Actually this is risk treatment plan, but it does say this is a risk treatment plan, ongoing risk assessment. Okay, fine. You could also define it like this. So yes, this answer, as you can see, is better than when not using the standard. Okay, let's go further and ask even more difficult questions. So using the uploaded ISO 27001 standard, tell me how to implement a statement of applicability. Okay, let's see what it answers. Okay, start from the risk assessment results. In fact, it's not risk assessment, it's really risk treatment, but okay. Determined the necessary controls. Yes, this is correct. Cross-check with Annex A controls. This is correct. Decide inclusion, exclusion for each control. Build the statement of applicability. This is all good, but actually it didn't mention that you can actually go... Oh, yeah, it did actually mention that you can actually go for controls from any source. So basically you can also list some other controls, not only those that are listed in the Annex A. Cross-check with Annex A. Yes, this is fine. Decide inclusion, exclusion of each control. Build a statement of applicability. Link controls to risks. This is okay. Align with the risk treatment plan. The SOA must be consistent with the risk treatment plan. Actually, this is not correct. So it's not that SOA needs to be consistent with the risk treatment plan, it's the other way around. The risk treatment plan needs to be aligned with the statement of applicability, because statement of applicability is written before the risk treatment plan, and the risk treatment plan is based on a statement of applicability. So this one detail is not correct. Okay, let's see now how this Experta AI Copilot answers these questions. Just to explain, this is a specialized AI-powered tool for compliance professionals. So it's not intended for general public, it's for someone who is doing compliance for a living. And basically, it is trained on Advisera's proprietary knowledge base. So there are something like 40,000 questions and answers that are used to train this Copilot. Anyway, let's start with some general questions first. So what are the main clauses in ISO 27001? Let's see what it answers. Yeah, the following parts: non-mandatory clauses, mandatory clauses, and so on. So it's basically all the same as these answers in ChatGPT. What is different here is that actually you can much more easily dig deeper. So if you're interested in context of the organization, you simply click tell me more, and it will give you more details about this clause. So basically here is a further explanation. And here you have this pinned Q&A so that you can actually easily go back and click something else. So for example, performance evaluation. So again, here we'll receive additional information about this particular clause. All right, let's close this and let's ask some other questions. So how many controls are there? Of course, it's an easy question, you should know. Yes, definitely. Now let's ask these more difficult questions. So what are the steps in risk assessment and treatment? And basically it tells you all the steps. So define the methodology, perform risk assessment, perform risk treatment, define statement of applicability, and write the risk treatment plan. So basically it answers everything correctly. Now let's check our next question. So how to implement a statement of applicability. So it says here, list all controls from Annex A, define which controls are applicable and which are not applicable. Define if you want to add some additional controls that are not listed in Annex A controls. In Annex A, for controls that are applicable, write the justification. For those that are not applicable, write the justification why these controls are not applicable, and define how your company is going to implement each control, which means write implementation method and define the status for each control. So as you can see, it's more reliable even with these more complex questions. Now, why is this so? Because again, this kind of, I would say, a professional tool for compliance and governance is really based on numerous questions and answers where you actually have expert opinion already built into the whole system. Whereas if you only upload the standard, it actually doesn't have this, let's say, experience from experts that is built into this. Of course, if you don't have even the standard, then you will get more general answers. Okay, now let's see what are the limitations of AI and where you actually still need a human to perform certain activities. So the first one is if you are not using some kind of a specialized compliance tool, then you have to find the source text of a standard or other relevant document that you can actually use for getting more reliable answers. The second thing is that you should never trust by default what the AI is basically answering you. So you should always have this critical mind when reviewing these answers. And the third, as already mentioned, you always have to make sure that you click this option that you do not allow the AI to use these questions and answers for training their AI model. Okay, I hope this was helpful, and let me know in the comments below if you have any questions about using AI for answering these kind of compliance questions about standards, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And to access Experta, this AI compliance Copilot that I was showing you, click the link in the description below and you'll be able to access this free account, which enables you to ask a certain number of questions every day. And you would have to pay only if you want to ask many questions every day. And see also my next video that explains how to create policies and procedures for various standards using AI. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel not to miss any of my new videos, and I publish videos about cybersecurity and AI governance and compliance every week. Thanks for watching.